Hey guys, it's Chris from Lords of War with a solo video here on Monday. And I just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about the Warhammer The Old World pre-order that happened on Saturday. And this is the first chance I'm getting to actually sit down and talk about it. Been thinking about it, chatting with a bunch of people across the industry and just trying to get people's takes and sort of how they felt it went before I kind of talk to everybody about it. And I have to say, and you can do this yourself. You can go on and just check the pre-order website, scroll down and see what's still available. You gotta say, like, yeah, I have to give it to Games Workshop. I think they mostly knocked it out of the park on this one, and I think the proof is in the pudding. Most of the main items are no longer available. So like you saw this them sell out of all the decks. They're out of rule books, which I think is very telling. People want to check the game out and just kind of read the rule book. They're out of, I believe, as of right now, they're out of Bretonnian army boxes. They're out of things like Metal Ushopti and Bretonnian Grail Knights and Mounted Yeomen. And if you just want to think about that for a second, they, and of course, there's no way for me to know or any of us to know without inside information how many of these things they made. But just think about that for a second. They were selling three Grail Knights or three Mounted Yeomen for $70 Canadian, and they sold out. That's wild. That's wild. And there was still demand. Like, I had people that missed out on those items. So, and you have three Metal Ushopti for $100 Canadian and gone. So, I mean, it's hard to call it a failure when that's happening. And I was thinking about this on the drive-in today with that Bretonnian army box, and I guess you got like two knight boxes. You had the men at arms, you had the archers. I'm thinking to myself, okay, they offered those to trade across North America, and I can only speak for North America here because I don't know much about what's going on in the rest of the world. But they offered those to trade in North America, so right off the bat, you're like, okay, they've got probably at least 10,000 copies of each to start. And I've got friends in other retailer shops that they're telling me that they're ordering like 8s and 16s, and we got a handful as well of each. And I'm just starting to do the math in my head, and I'm like, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if Games Workshop just sold more plastic Bretonians in one day on Saturday than they ever sold in the history of their company before. That's a crazy thing to say, but hear me out for a second. You have to think like just the scope of things. 10 years later, after almost 10 years of Fantasy Battles not being around, the amount of stores that have opened. I don't want to say the market's twice as big, but I think it is. Even if you just look at their revenue, the reach of that, and we've talked about this in other videos before, and I'll talk about our particular stores pre-order or whatever. But there was years when working at Games Workshop, and those the Tomb King or Bretonnian boxes would just sit on the shelf and not a single soul wanted them. And this is like later on, obviously, in Fantasy, not when they first came out. So it's not like they were selling like hotcakes back then, which is kind of funny because like Jay and I talk about how it's just funny to see how many people are was chomping at the bit to get those particular armies when we couldn't move them at all when they were out before. So it's just funny how things have come around and come full circle in a way. And so for our particular shop, our mindset going into this, you've watched our videos, you've seen like we've balanced between positivity and skeptical, and I think that was a healthy way to be because, like I said, there's too much memory. You have too many memories of loving the game, but then you're balancing that out with seeing the unfortunate sales of the game before, and that sticks with you, right? It's hard to kind of think that this is going to be different, and I guess it's one of the few times I feel like I was a bit wrong, and I think the demand was greater than I thought it would be, and I'll admit it. and not by a lot. Like we mostly still had stuff to sell after Saturday, other than rule books and I think Bretonian boxes. But yeah, like I did not expect the like certain things to just blow off the website like that, and just the sheer volume of people purchasing things, to the fact that they had like an hour queue on the website at some points on Saturday. It's pretty wild to see that sort of traffic hit the Games Workshop website. And yeah, you can argue like some people are just looking on and see what's going on. Maybe they weren't buying anything, but I think most people were. And I'm hearing from I still got buddies at Games Workshops and stuff like that I talked to from back in my days there, and talking about like you're just hearing about how many orders they were pumping through. And yeah, it's kind of mental. Like it's Old World's back. Like they have at least the sales data to say now, okay, like people wanted to buy this. What does that mean going forward? That's a different video. That's when Chris will put his skeptical hat back on, probably, because I'll still stick to my guns on that one, where it's still going to be a small section on your hobby shop wall. If you go and watch Guerrilla Miniature Games Ash's videos, he does a good job of like making the analogy to like the Lord of the Rings game and how they organize their books and their products. And you go into any FLGS or even any Games Workshop store and you see the Lord of the Rings section, it's very small. So even with this success, I think we'll call it a success of Old World pre-order, we're still probably going to see small, like, it's going to be, they have a plan. It's going to be small 2 army set things coming out at a time. Obviously, this was a big floodgates open sort of release, but it's going to be smaller drip for going forward, right? So I guess the burden now, believe it or not, is it's not on Games Workshop. They made the product. The burden, I think, really falls on the community to see if this is a game that can actually like get played in the light of day, right? That's the next challenge, right? And that was always, let's be real here, that was always Fantasy's challenge. It was a tough game to play. It was tough to build an army because you needed a billion models. You needed things like movement trays. You needed to paint, like 100 models. You couldn't really play small games because they kind of sucked. And finding the communities were small, and you had to kind of like go out of your way to find people. And so will this just continue to be a play at home with your bud friends kind of game? Or are we going to see like a massive resurgence and like start to see the local communities come together and really like make the effort to try to make this work this time around? And I'm kind of excited to see what the community does with it. We've seen some great examples of that. I'm speaking really here in Ontario with some smaller games. Like there's pockets of Blood Bowl that have like 60 teams, stuff like that. You see like there's like a Lord of the Rings Ontario League that's been running for I don't know, so long, and they're super organized and great and positive, and they just keep on trucking along. So I mean, can something like that happen for the Old World? Certainly, why not? It's just a matter of whether it happens or not. So yeah, it was kind of wild to see the frenzy on Saturday. And you like I said, you have to kind of give it to GW. It seems like they mostly handled it the right way. I mean, you can't. Some of the prices are kind of okay. Some of them seemed a little high on things like card packs, and like I said, like 3 Bretonian Knights for $70. But I mean, if people keep buying it, like it's not going to get cheaper, right? So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick word about that. And for our shop, just a quick word on our shop. In the big scheme of things, we like, just to give you an idea of how successful it was, like I'd put it like around Legion Imperialis. Like it was kind of that size, similar size to that. Like we didn't sell nearly as many like big boxes as we did for Legion Imperialis, but we had like more books and card packs and things like that to sell. So there's a much wider release. So there was like a whole bunch of different things to sell for people, right? So we'll see. I mean, Legion Imperialis, this is where they vary. Legion Imperialis will have more gas going forward because there's big planned plastic chunks like planned for it. Whereas this feels a bit more like a one and done until they release like, an Orc and a Dwarf box or an Empire and a Chaos box and like the rest of the ranges for that. But to be honest, like outside of the big army boxes and the rules and the cards and all that stuff, wasn't we didn't sell a lot of stuff. So like we weren't moving like War Sphinxes and Pegasus Knight packs, and so people aren't buying those. Even the I was surprised we didn't. I don't think we had a pre-order for the new Royal Pegasus model. So yeah, it's weird. So like you're calling it a success, but at the same time, my brain still stays very skeptical for future sales off of this line. And unless your excitement is in one of the ranges like Tomb Kings or Bretonnians right now, you're going to have to get pretty creative to kind of start working on those armies, because you can't just walk into a local shop and buy models. So there's that kind of counteracting force. So, unlike most Games Workshop releases where you have a rule set that comes out and it basically helps you sell your whole wall of miniatures that you have. Like, so, a new edition of 40K, it's great because it makes everything on your wall new again, right? And that's kind of how you always have to look at it as a shop owner. And for this release, you open up your Ravening Hordes book, and you're like, okay, this is actually not bad. I can conceivably make obviously a Tomb King army, because all those models are now available. But I could also build a Orc and Goblin army if I use like Age of Sigmar models. Like there's a ton of sort of analogous units that can easily be ported there, and obviously the square bases are available. And then Warriors of Chaos is another easy one to port over from Age of Sigmar. You have lots of beautiful, great new kits. That would work really well. And I think those are the only ones you're going to kind of have out of that book. Oh no, Beastman's actually not bad. You probably could do most of a Beastman army. You're probably missing a few things, like for all those armies that aren't going to be available for a while. But yeah, it looks like Ravening Hordes, you're probably pretty good to make most of those armies out of current plastic kits, which is pretty sweet. But I think the Forces of Fantasy one is the trouble one. So you have dwarves. So which kits are still available there? That might be a bit of a struggle. There's some pretty important things that I believe you cannot buy, like things like anvils and character models and things like that. You could probably be a bit creative. Empire is going to be brutal. Like I don't think you can buy swordsmen or spearmen or knights or any of that stuff. You probably could port some things over out of Age of Sigmar, but you're not going to get that like classic old world aesthetic. And I'd have to check again, but Wood Elves, I don't think any of the Wood Elf stuff is on there, so that would be pretty tough. High Elves, same thing. So yeah, you're kind of stuck with just kind of the Bretonnians for now. I'm pretty sure out of all the Forces of Fantasy. So you kind of get what I mean. It's exciting, but like there isn't like this breadth of projects that you can kind of just like open up and tackle. Like when the Horus Heresy came out last summer, because it is primarily a Space Marine game and there's not all these different armies, everyone could dive in and feel like they were doing something unique because you can pick your own chapter and build things that you want and that sort of thing. But with this, I think the question is going to be how are people going to maintain interest if the thing that they want isn't available yet? So that's kind of where my head's at least right now. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a sort of like fun little online league hobby challenge sort of thing. Hopefully going to get all that stuff sorted this week and announce that. But yeah, we just want to do a quick little video just to give you an update on Saturday's pre-release. So what did you think? Did you get all the toys you wanted? I missed out on magic items and cards, I think. Did you find the queuing system frustrating? Did you like it? Did you buy anything for Old World? Are you planning on playing, etc., etc.? What do you think now that people have put money down? Do you think Games Workshop succeeded? Do you think they could have done a better job? What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Take care until next time, guys. Bye.